QCY's last over-ear ANC headphone, the H3, was not a product that I was impressed with. They were bulky, rattly and creaked every time that you moved them. The ear cups were just a little bit too small, and the cushioning didn't seem to have enough padding in, which, combined with the excessive clamping force, made for an uncomfortable experience. But with their newest release, the H3 Pro, QCY have remedied all of these problems and have made several other notable improvements. Amongst those improvements are the sound, the active noise cancellation, and their performance on calls. And as always in my reviews, you're going to hear for yourself how they sound with a binaural sound sample, hear several ANC samples in different locations with comparisons to the original H3 and Moondrop's new Edge, and hear call samples in different types of scene, both in busy indoor and outdoor locations. The H3 Pro costs around £33 or $40 and they support high-res audio through the LDAC codec, but they also allow you to use these in two different wired modes using a 3.5mm jack or USB-C. On the original H3 it was jack only, so there's an upgrade there, and when you're using them with USB-C, not only do the mics work, but the active noise cancellation works as well. A big bonus. And active noise cancellation is where we're going to start the review. You're going to hear a couple of different samples here. The first in a coffee shop and then next in a busy outdoor scene.
Adaptive ANC. ANC on. Adaptive ANC.
As you heard there, in both the indoor and outdoor scenes, it's clear that the H3 Pro's ANC is a big upgrade on the original, but not only that, it outperformed the Moondrop Edge, a set that are quite a bit more expensive. I don't have an ANC league table for budget headphones yet, but I'd say the H3 Pro was probably up there in terms of total noise reduction with the current top performer, the Soundbeat Space. The QCY app, whilst a little bit ugly looking, does give you lots of control over the active noise cancellation, some of which is very useful, but other bits not so much. You've got different indoor and outdoor environments tailored to different types of scene, but I found that adaptive ANC mode on the H3 Pro not only worked really well, but it worked much better than on some of their previous models. Another point of note is that I found that the noisy setting was better than the commuting, very noisy setting when I was commuting. Worked that one out. And the anti-wind noise didn't really do a lot for wind. You don't have anything like as much control over the transparency mode, and I feel that is perhaps a little bit of a missed opportunity. Transparency mode on this model is pretty strong, although it isn't the most natural, with a lot of white noise appearing over the top of your own voice. Hopefully QCY can add a strength slider like they have with their earbuds on a future firmware update. One of the many things I didn't like about the original H3 was the sound, with quite a bit of distortion in those lower frequencies. As I mentioned in the intro, the H3 Pro is using 40mm dynamic drivers and it's got support for the LDAC codec, but I don't think that is what contributes to making the sound a lot better and a lot cleaner on the H3 Pro. That's probably more to do with the tuning. We can see those improvements all the way through the frequency response. It's still a V-shaped sound signature that favours energy over musicality, but the bass is more tactile and more balanced, even if it is still more thump than punch. Vocals no longer sound like they're being sung through a pillow, which is definitely a big bonus. And there's a bit more air to the upper trebles. This creates a perception of a slightly wider soundstage, which overall works pretty well whether it's music, movies or gaming that you're using them for. But don't take my word for it. Here's that binaural sound sample so you can judge for yourself. Just like with the active noise cancellation, you do have quite a bit of control over the sound in the QCY app, including a few presets, none of which sound great, and a custom EQ. I haven't quite found a custom EQ setting that I really like, but when I do, I'll pop a link to it in the description. QCY have included spatial sound effects, although don't try using this for music, it makes it sound pretty dreadful and you can't use the EQ with it. For gaming and movies, it adds a little bit of reverb to the sound, which you may or may not find useful. Now remember, all of my measurements are hosted both at Squiglink and at my GitHub. I have left a link for both in the description. Not only can it be useful when you're looking through the frequency response of different models, try and decide which will sound best to you out of the box, but you can also use the AutoEq function to make one set of headphones sound either like another set of headphones or like a specific target like the Harman over-ear. If you're an Android user, this is particularly useful because it allows you to export a template that you can load into Wavelet and then get that to EQ your headphones or earbuds for you. If you want to use the mics on the H3 Pro for Teams calls, perhaps when you're at home and you've got no other noises going on around you, then this is how your voice is going to sound. But more likely, you're going to want to use these while you're on the move in busy real life outdoor and indoor locations. So that's what we got coming up for you with a couple of clips, just so it can give you an idea of how that environmental noise reduction is going to perform. First up, we're testing the QCY H3 Pro in a busy coffee shop, and it's the same busy coffee shop that I always test my TWS and headphones in for calls, because you've got such a wide variety of different frequency sounds that are the kind of typical sounds that you're going to encounter when you're out and about and you're in a busy indoor scene like this one. And this time we're testing the H3 Pro in a busy semi-indoor, semi-outdoor scene. I'm in Borough Market here in London on the weekends. Very busy, very echoing. It's right next to the train station as well, so you've got the noise of trains coming through. But it's mostly the big groups of people here and the indistinct chatter that you're going to get in any typically busy indoor scene. So we're testing the QCY H3 Pro and how they're going to perform on your calls, perhaps when you're on the daily commute. This busy outdoor scene is commensurate with what you can expect if you're on the way to work, school, college, the train station, something like that. We've got a mixture of quite a bit of wind coming through. It's very breezy today, hence why I'm wearing a hat. We've also got traffic noises. You've got groups of people, lots of indistinct chatter, and just as sounds like a motorbike tears through. I'm going to be wondering whether you're able to hear that or not. It's QCY H3 Pro. So as you heard there, not a bad call performance whatsoever. There's some ambient noise reduction, doesn't get rid of it completely, but it muffles it to a point that it's palatable, and your voice still comes through pretty clear regardless of whether it was a busy indoor or busy outdoor scene. If you want to compare the call, ANC or sound samples, remember, just go onto my channel page and click the headphone reviews playlist, where you've got a list of all those over-ear headphones I've reviewed so far. As I mentioned previously, QCY have tried to rectify all of those areas of the design that caused a problem in the original H3, and I think they've definitely been able to do that. The result is a much more comfortable experience. It isn't all brilliant. The plastic that they've used does tend to weather quite quickly. I think it's the same plastic that was used on their Crosskey C30, and I had exactly the same problem with them. With no case included in the accessories, it means that these can look quite scruffy very quickly. The button configuration hasn't changed, it's all on the right cup, where you've also got the USB-C port and 3.5mm jack. The buttons are actually one of the downgrades, losing the rubbery texture they had on the original and not feeling quite as tactile as a result. It's a typical 3-button layout with volume up and down and a multi-function button which you can customize single, double, triple and quadruple touch. The fold configuration hasn't changed, with both of these pairs being quite portable, and both sets give you a fair bit of adjustment. I think it's up to 10 clicks on both sides with a metal slider. One big change is that the top of the headband now has a kind of leathery sort of look and feel, whereas it was plastic on the original H3, and this not only gave excessive clamping force, but it also made them sound really rattly. The openings on the ear cups are also bigger and much more akin to what you would expect on the average ear. And most importantly, they've massively improved the faux protein leather padding so that the recoil is much slower and there's much less give within the material. All of the areas of padding that are making contact with your head or skin feel much better, including the headband, which again on the H3 could feel a bit problematic, especially if you're thinning a bit on top. I tend to keep commentary about the design towards the end of the review because, let's face it, it isn't quite as sexy as stuff like the sound and the active noise cancellation, but I don't think it can be underestimated, because if they hadn't got the design right, then you got a headache very quickly, or felt too much discomfort from the lack of padding in the ear cups or the clamping force, then that would ultimately determine whether you like these headphones or whether you use them at all. Whilst fit is very subjective, and I'm sure the original H3 would have been fine for a lot of users, I did see the same comments popping up in a lot of reviews about all of those things I listed. So kudos to QCY for spotting these flaws with the original H3, listening to their customers and making the changes accordingly. For gamers, whilst the original H3 have a slight advantage when it comes to latency used in Bluetooth mode, with USB-C you get almost zero latency, and obviously you can't do this on the H3. When it comes to battery life, I got slightly better performance on the H3 with ANC switched off, and very marginally better on the H3 Pro with ANC switched on. The H3 Pro also has an excellent quick charge feature of 5 hours playtime from just 10 minutes plugged in, which blows the original H3 away. Both of these models support multipoint, by the way, which you have to activate in the app because you can't use them with LDAC at the same time. And whilst it works well, there's no device list and you do have to pause your primary device before the secondary device will kick in. Overall, it's evolution rather than revolution, and it's questionable whether the Pro tag is deserving in this case, given there aren't huge differences in terms of technical performance. It's more the streamlining and optimization of the design that makes the H3 Pro a much better bet. The active noise cancellation is solid, outperforming the likes of Earfun, Halo and Soundpeats. And whilst the sound's still a little bit too boomy for my liking, it can be customized in the app. It's the ability to use them with USB-C that really makes them stand out, and at their price they are a solid all-rounder. What do you think of the H3 Pro? Do leave your comments in the comment section. Don't forget to give the video a like if you found it useful or enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Coming up, we've got reviews of Moondrop's new Edge, my IEM endgame, the Dunu DK3001 Braindance, KZ's new flagship single DD IEM, and the TWS that smashes everyone else when it comes to voice calls, the Huawei FreeBuds Pro 4. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.